In Houston, I'm John Herder. Tuesday, the 5th day of March. Great as always to have you along, everybody. From the Experts is a virtual networking opportunity flow accelerator helping leaders across industries connect very quickly in a brief, moderated, interactive show format, like a TED Talk with interaction. If everything goes well, your curiosity spark new ideas, accelerate action, and you may have helped yourself and somebody else solve a problem, make that connection, reaching the opportunity faster. Folks, help me welcome guest expert Volkmar Kunerth. Volkmar is a seasoned leader in AI and IoT and CEO of Accentec Technologies. With a background in economics, business, and engineering, his research focuses on the economic impact of AI and IoT, specifically in SaaS, automation, and energy. Serving multi-billion-dollar Fortune 500 enterprises and mid-sized startups, Accentec provides strategic guidance and implementation support of AI and IoT solutions. Welcome, Volkmar. Looking forward to your current insights and your working experiences helping these other leaders along the IoT journey. So over to you.
Thank you. If you could start the presentation, I would be very thankful. Thanks. So, first of all, thank you so much for making it here today. I extremely appreciate your attendance to this. What we're talking today, and I hope you get the value. Just today, I received the news this morning that NVIDIA CEO said general artificial intelligence will be here in 5 years. We don't know, but it's definitely something leaders have to incorporate into their strategic planning for the next 5 years. So what are we talking about? AIoT, artificial intelligence of things, combines artificial intelligence technologies and the Internet of Things infrastructure. And it's a very powerful combination to leverage the connectivity of IoT devices with intelligent data analysis capabilities in various industries such as manufacturing, healthcare, smart cities, agriculture, and retail to optimize operations, improve customer experiences, or introduce new products. And the various AI technologies such as machine learning, natural language processing, and computer vision are applied to the vast amounts of data generated either by IoT devices or by other company devices. So we have valuable insight, can automate tasks, predict outcomes, and improve decision-making. Next slide, please. So, what does it mean for you? Well, the first question is, can your organization stay competitive without implementing AI and IoT? And my presumption is not. And we have a discussion later about this. Because in many sectors, the integration of AI and IoT is not just a matter of maintaining competitiveness, but in my opinion, of survival. And organizations who fail to adapt might find themselves outcompeted in the market. So, as we said, there are different verticals that are affected. The most notable are manufacturing with operational efficiency, healthcare. For example, Medtronic uses IoT devices to monitor diabetes in patients. In agriculture, animals have sensors on them, or AI is being used by collecting crops. Visual AI in retail, optimizations take place in Amazon marketplaces, in the energy sectors. Energy production, distribution, and consumption is highly optimized by AI and IoT. Next slide, please. So I have some examples here that show what's happening right now. For example, and this is pure AI examples, but I thought they're so imminent that worth sharing. GitHub, the software developers develop code 56% faster. I've had an implementation at a Silicon Valley startup where marketing people increased their productivity in general between 40 and 80%, depending on tasks. Pharmaceutical company productivity gain by 10 to 15% in R&D. I mean, these could be hundreds of millions of dollars. And what struck out to me, I got this notice the other day that Klarna, a financing company, got rid of 700, all of their agents, 700 agents. And next slide, I'm going to show what that meant for them. Is basically not only did they completely got rid of the 700 agents and replaced them by AI, but the AI was even much better doing the tasks, leading to 25% drop in repeat inquiries and resolving the errands in 2 minutes instead of 11 minutes. And this is in 23 markets, 24/7 in more than 35 languages. So some parts of our economy will be extremely affected in a very short time. Next slide. So why is it so eminent now? So my opinion is, number one, technological maturity. Yeah. So basically, we have the technology now in place with edge devices, edge computing, NVIDIA chips, for example, for visual AI to reduce, increase processing speeds and reduce latencies. We have 5G, which increases connectivity speeds and reliability. Companies work on standardization and interoperabilities. And we have these advanced data and analytics AI models, which can process tremendous amount of data generated by IoT devices or other input devices inside the company, which then leads to broader industry adoption, and the broader industry adoption to more maturity and obviously even more investments into the industry. So it's a self-revolving effect. In regards to security, there's still work to be done, but also on this part, there's major work to be done to avoid cyber threats. However, that will not stop the implementation of AI and IoT into organizations. Next slide. So what does it mean for you as an organization, or potentially meaning, and why is it now relevant for you? Number one, as I said, without being innovative and efficient, which you can do with data generated from IoT devices and others, and driving your innovation and utilize these technologies, you will not get the data insights that enable you to get the to analyze the data and have the insights for your companies. You might miss out on opportunities. And the data utilization enables your organization to leverage data in many ways, not only decision making, but also predictive analytics, maintenance, operations, personalized customer experiences. you might lose out on a lot of ways to improve your organization. Not to speak about customer expectations that expect personalization and more convenience, and higher quality of service or higher quality of your products, which can be enabled through various AI technologies, for example, vision technologies in congregation with robotic technologies and so forth. Now, this all reduces your operational risks and allows you to have better cost management and efficiencies in your organization, which makes your organization then more competitive. And also in manufacturing and other sectors, again, predictive maintenance can allow you to avoid the bottlenecks that are happening when your machines go down. Next slide. So in the strategic planning, it has to be clear that you have to think about your processes first. What processes are you going to improve? What are your business objectives? And how do you identify impactful use cases and set specific goals on those? And this requires engaging all stakeholders and planning and being very clear what KPIs you want to achieve in your in the processes you want to improve. And then you have to make sure you look into proper integration of AI models and make sure you have the security demands met. Next slide. So what can happen? What are the common pitfalls that I see? Now, number one, you're not really clear about your objectives and the processes aligned to these objectives. Then you lack direction and you have waste your resources on solutions that do not align with your business needs. Number two, inadequate data management. I think here your systems rely heavily on data, and poor data management, for example, bad data quality, can lead to skewed results. For example, when you use Vision AI at the manufacturing for quality assurance, and you don't have the right lighting, you haven't positioned the camera in the right way, you might get suboptimal picture qualities, which then negatively affect your data models because they cannot process it properly. And coming to the next step, the integration for, again, coming to a manufacturing environment, you have to possibly integrate robots, cameras, and all other technology, speed of the band. If you don't do that right, or you cannot do it, you might want to get an integrator who has the capacities to integrate these different technologies. Then security and privacy, your customers, for example, sometimes machine operators, machine builders, healthcare providers, they need to have security, which is due to compliance issues and also to customer demands because they want to have their security safe, their data safe. And then what you have to look at is the scalability. You have to think, how will your organization potentially grow in the next 5 years? And how do you set up the infrastructure so you're able to scale your AI and IoT in a proper way so it aligns with the growth of your organization? And not to forget the user experience and adoption. Let's say, for example, People work in the oil field and they have a user interface and this connects to sensors. And if the interface is not easy enough to use, you will have a hard time on a real day-by-day basis to maintain your system. Insufficient skill sets is also tying into user experience and adoption. You have to train your people to properly work in the environment where you have set up the AI and IoT. They have to meet certain requirements and standards, so data, not only your data, but that of your customers, will be safe. And this has to be continuously monitored and maintained, of course, to have ongoing results. Otherwise, you have outdated data, outdated systems, and increased downtimes or performance issues. So all of these have to be kept in mind, and so I think a proper planning of the implementation of those systems is very much needed. Next slide. So if you don't do it, you're running in danger of misallocating your resources because of no clear objective. You get scope creep. You might get integration challenges, poor data management. I spoke about that, silos and so forth, and storage capacity, and access speed problems. I should have probably put that slides ahead of the other one, but the results of not proper planning, implementing, and allocating the necessary resources for a AI implementation or IoT and AI implementation have consequences that can cost you dearly and waste your resources without getting the desired outcome for your company. Next slide. So those are the questions for me for the upcoming discussions. How is AIoT relevant to your business? What is your current experience with AI? And what is your personal outlook on AIoT? And
Thank you.
those are the sources. And yeah, thank you so much for next slide, last slide maybe is our contact slide. And I also wanted to particularly thank John Herter from the FTE network. And you can book me here directly through my calendar link if you have any questions.
Thank you very much.
Or send me an email. Thank you. Thank you so much. Bye.
So let's open the floor and get some feedback.
Yeah.
Folks, if you're new to the show, I just sent you a note saying raise your hand. And if I call on you, you don't want to contribute, then you can say pass. So this is an open environment like that. Stephen McDonald, would you mind sharing any reflections that you might have from what you just heard?
Yeah,
Get us
thanks,
started.
Josh. Yeah, I thought that was great. Great presentation, Volkmar. You hit on really all the kind of elements to incorporating the decision-making process as well as kind of the results of a successful integration effort. Kind of, my thoughts on it. I ran Advantech North America's RBU. Advantech is the world's leading industrial Internet of Things manufacturer for the computing elements. And I was in the energy and environmental space. And that industry is slow to adopt a lot of technology advancements anyways. However, it's a good benchmark to really see the importance of it. And you're seeing a lot of these industry players starting to really absorb what the value of this technology space can have on their both bottom line, but also system reliability. And so it's encouraging to hear this community talk about it, and look forward to learning more. Thanks.
Thanks, Devin. Thanks, Steve.
David Canavan with InSkill, do you have any thoughts, or Robert Applebaum with Fairfax? Any thoughts from you guys? Feel free.
Yeah, I join regularly your presentations because sometimes it's opening up your mind to technologies, things you don't deal with day in, day out. But I guess the question I have just about, AI and as it relates to IoT, the one question I have is, are the solutions being deployed at the edge, or do you see it more centralized? What is kind of the framework for how AI is being used with IoT and the collection of the information being used? Again, do you see it more deployed at the edge, or do you see it more as a centralized management at this point in time with the two technologies kind of coming together?
Yeah, so I think we have to look historically. There's always this dimension between edge and centralized. So what is currently happening, I just bring up one example in the space of vision AI, that because you don't want to have latency, you're going to have a, let's say, NVIDIA computer or NVIDIA chip connected to the camera that processes the information much faster. However, the models, the AI models themselves, are programmed in the cloud and then deployed on the edge devices. And then later, obviously, the information is uploaded and then processed in a central environment. Now, the cloud can mean many things. It can mean a data center that is independent, but it can also mean that you run your models in a company internal data center, and it never goes out of the premises. So, I mean, that's depending on the size of the company. Now, I mean, looking ahead, I mean, in terms of the hardware, cloud versus edge, there are many technologies coming up that are cloud edge native technologies, orchestrating the edge and the cloud. This would be too much for this session, but I'm more than happy to talk about this in more detail at a later point.
So one follow-up, and then I thank you for the answer. So when you look at these models and how they're distributed or pushed out, regardless of where they reside, whether in the cloud, centralized, or edge, is the software today, is that something that exists that is, mature, where, LLMs and small language models are kind of, for most people, it's a fairly new topic, the last 18 months, let's call it. So has software evolved behind the scenes that enables you to manage revision management and get the right model to the right devices, per se, in your IoT world?
Well, it depends on the application, So there, for example, large language models combined with machine learning models for machines, yeah. I mean, for manufacturing machines and so forth, yeah. I mean, there are a couple of people here in the audience who have deployed large language models on running machines or more easily running machines by extracting data from machine manuals and so forth. So everything is extremely dependent on the case that you wanna solve, in particular, whether a local large language models is applicable or not. Yeah, so you have to really talk case by case.
Let's move to Yan Pei. Yan Pei, would you mind turning on your mic? Thank you. And introduce yourself briefly.
Hi, thank you, John. And hi, everyone. I'll introduce myself just so you know my questions and topics, kind of where they're coming from, right? So I've been in product management and sales for many years in and Siemens. So my background is definitely more the industrial, right? Smart grid, manufacturing, and so on. Sorry, I'm getting a lot of noise. Sorry about that. And so, yes, first of all, thank you for this great topic, right? I'm definitely very fascinated by the possibilities, but having spent, kind of almost a decade now trying to help industrial companies go through a digital transformation, right? At least I found that the maturity, especially data maturity, as well as the skills maturity of the teams are typically kind of the greatest challenges, right? And the framework that Volkmar put out is very valuable, but just even kind of thinking through it, I'm thinking, wow, the sheer amount of effort and coordination you would take to do this. So I would really love to hear your thoughts on, having been exposed to so many projects, right? How often you come to a particular use case or a client, and they're asking for your help in getting a project going, right? How many of them really have what it takes, ready to go, right? And how many of them essentially end up outsourcing, a significantly percentage of this work? And I'll also be interested to hear the organizational aspect. Do you see who takes the lead on this, right? Is it the IT team, for example? Or is it more successful if there's a business leader who, like you said earlier, right, have a very concrete and crisp idea of what the outcome you want to be, drive the project? What are kind of the best practices? So I know I kind of threw out a bunch of there, but hopefully it's just kind of thought-provoking topics for us to discuss. Thank you.
Yeah, so it definitely depends on the size of the company and the application. So I have seen very simple plug and play models where companies connect their machines to a cloud solution, and then whenever the service is not needed, they unplug it. It sounds very simplistic now. I think the whole thing always starts from the executive team, but then the driver is the operations team and in the factory, the heads of operation, and then aligned with the IT teams who have to play an important support function. Now, depending on the size of the company, that often determines the question whether you need more outside help or inside help. For example, bigger companies prefer to train or program their AI models themselves sometimes. But even so, I think that at this point, because as I said, the more complex the different technologies that have to work together, as I put as an example, a robot, a camera, a manufacturing line, a quality assurance, and so forth, it is in many cases, in my opinion, important to get outside help if you don't have everything. And then we come back to the question of teaching or educating your staff appropriately. Then we can use these large language models, for example, for them to find information faster, or are being trained faster on these different processes. So there's many things to that question, and I'm more than happy to talk in more detail about this after.
Right. Thanks, guys. Anybody else want to jump in, have another question or an experience? Idar, Steve, or Stephen?
Well, John, I have a question, Ms. Idar. Great intro here, Volkmar, and about this topic, which is broad. I have a question related to modeling and training or learning vis-a-vis use cases that is going to be a flora of just a broad set of use cases out there. Do you see that there will be platforms that are available to solve this more specifically for maybe one context of use cases versus a broad platform that allows you to solve a whole array of issues?
Yeah.
Thanks.
So I worked with a platform, for example, a non-code vision platform that is it's pre-programmed, very interactive, plug and play. So people don't need to train their own models, but upload it, and they cover 80% of cases, for example. Yeah. So, and then they can do custom programming also for specific cases. But I see in the future automated platforms coming that cover, and they are now already in effect that cover 80% of use cases, and they are pre-programmed where you just basically have to upload the data, but you have to do that properly. Obviously, I mean, it's still data science. Yeah. So if you don't upload the right data, if it's screwed, you still get bad results. Yeah. But the cases will be covered by platforms to a large degree, in my opinion.
So just a quick follow-up to that.
80-20.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you for that. Just a follow-on to that. Do you see then that this is going to be, for larger companies, this will be the second coming of the CIO having his or her new kingdom, or will there be companies out there, consulting firms and other experts who will be solving these needs? What are your thoughts there?
Well, I think it's going to be a gradual process where they might in the beginning need more help for consultants, and once they have the teams appropriately built up, their in-house expertise lesser and lesser. I mean, that's what I kind of foresee. So,
anybody else have a take on that before we hand it over to Stephen?
Just real quick, I wanted to ask Volkmar what that platform was that you mentioned, no code and plug and play.
Yeah, they're called One Step AI. They're out of Poland, and yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Stephen?
I did have a quick question. So I work with a SaaS company out of Sicily, and when they're using their IoT devices in their AI model, one of the things that's popped up is all of the end users have grown accustomed to, we want more and more inputs, we want more and more data. The security's been a nightmare because anytime you're doing open APIs and connecting it into your AI system, those open APIs are also open to other people. But the biggest problem has been a data creep, that whenever they start ingesting this data, they've got to save it for 3 years for compliance regulations and a couple of other things. But most of these companies are either using AWS or Azure so that they can localize and meet the requirements of whatever country they're in. But the amount of the data storage that builds into the data lakes is getting out of control. Do you see a way that this can be either alleviated or some way to be able to recycle the data or make it into smaller amounts and still meet that same type of compliance requirements? And most of this, by the way, is in oil and gas, and people are moving large amounts of data, and they do have to keep it for 3 years. But can you think of a way that we can take this data creep and control it and reduce the amount of the footprint of the data lakes that we're creating? Because it's becoming unsustainable for some of the customers in this group.
My question is this in the US or is it in Europe? And
It's actually it's a global concern, and because it is a global concern, you know, if you're going to hit GDPR data and deal with something in Europe, or you're going to be able to do with FIPS or any of these other regulatory things, you have to have it concentrated in separate Azure databases or things, so that you're not doing cross-border data transfers.
This is something I haven't looked into in such detail as I could answer or give you a comprehensive answer here. I just know that I came across a couple of companies from New Zealand that are better in their data management of allocating these different data sources in an automated way. The other thing is that what I think is that we have to look at the different the company I work with has their own data centers, so they combine the AI with their own data centers, and then you probably are more flexible in allocating different data than you are with the current providers like AWS or Google Cloud or whatever's out there. So this is like the provisional answer I can give you.
Thanks, and sorry for throwing a wrench into it.
Oh, that's good. Well, you guys can connect afterwards. That's perfect. Stephen McDonald,
sorry. I was going to say, Volkmar, you and I connected on LinkedIn last week, so I look forward to speaking with you soon.
Yeah. Thank you, Stephen. I very much appreciate your question.
So I like the slide that you had, the process. So do you recommend, sounds like you're recommending to take bite-sized chunks. That's kind of what I've mentioned to people as they're transitioning into digitalization. So do you also recommend, look at the processes that might not impact the bottom line and start picking off those? Or do you say, hey, let's just go right for the bottom line ones, the giant multi-processy kind of processes, and then look at the AI model? So it's just kind of, how do you structure your roadmap?
Well, the question is, what is the bottom line and what processes do you want to improve first? I mean, some processes are easier to implement and faster, give you faster results, and some are harder. I mean, I specifically talk about, for example, quality assurance. I've talked with the head of Metronics for Zeiss, which do the end quality at the VW plant in Wolfsburg, and they can't stop the production and to implement AI into quality assurance, for example. I mean, that's just an extreme example. So I think a comprehensive team of different stakeholders in the company have to discuss the priorities, which models and which processes they want to improve first. And I don't think we shouldn't look only on bottom line first, because there might be process improvements that might make the company much more competitive at that stage right now. And the bottom line of things come much later through the increased competitiveness of the organization in the market.
Thanks for that, Volkmar. So Bernard, Thomas, Jans, Raul, David Mullins, anybody have a question that is related to your business or maybe your outlook on this?
Well, I have, my name is Jans Haasman, work for France Inc., a knowledge graph company. I have a question for Volkmar about that platform and the no-code platform. And maybe it's a little bit outside of the scope of this meeting, but I've seen amazing no-code platforms, and I've seen no-code platforms where, yeah, you can do, it looks like you can do 80%, right, and 20% of the effort, right? But is the other 20% 300% of the effort? Or, I mean, does it really solve a problem, that no-code platform? Or is it just fun that you can do some data science, but it doesn't really address the core of the things you're trying to solve?
That's always a question you have to ask yourself, of course. I mean, the data platform I work with solves problems, yeah. And I think the advantage in at this point is basically that and you have to look every time at the application, yeah, whether you can use that platform or not, but it's very much plug and play in a way that it has a very helpful interface and allows you to understand, because you understand the process and navigate through the process of the implementing the AI and the data and processing the data is very easy. So specifically for companies who don't have the bandwidth, the money, or the capacity to, or even research organizations like universities who want to run AI models on whatever, different animals, different cells, or whatever, I think it's very helpful. And I'm more than happy to show this to you in a demonstration after this. I think it's extremely useful, this platform, but I want to prove that to you also after the show. And the CTO can give you a presentation about it too, so you can have better insight.
From anybody else in the group? I see Byron, I see Kurt, I see Michael Stauffer's here. Bernard, anybody else have a question for Volkmar while we have his time here? Yeah, go ahead, Raul.
Just a question in terms of the companies that are entering this space. So I think we can all agree AI is someone said, even, you know, last 18 months it's become top of mind. And because of the skill set, I'm just wondering what's your opinion on who's going to come more strongly into this market? Because I can see someone that already does IoT and says, well, you know, I can just introduce the layer of AI, or someone that's AI that has a ton of money says, I could just buy a hardware company and to get into that business. So just wondering what's your opinion on who's going to come in stronger into this.
Okay. So the hurdles of entry for a hardware company are extremely high. Yeah, I mean, if you want to become a second Intel or NVIDIA, you probably need billions of investment. Software is obviously much faster, but we're talking about large language models. Those cost also a ton of obviously investment to process the data. So I foresee more niche specific solutions, software solutions that either lock into existing large language or machine models and provide industry-specific solutions to problems and processes coming much more. For example, lower medical industries, doctors utilizing technology for skin cancer detection, large language models specifically for marketing, language, and so forth. There are tons, or for research, there are tons of companies springing up now that target industry-specific problems. And I foresee that a strong market in this movement. And then also we have a strong movement in robotics intersecting with AI, large language models, and machine learning. We see tremendous investments. I've just seen a $600 million investment in a humanoid robotic company. But again, here we have also extreme high hurdles of entry every time you come. I mean, 600 million is a lot of money. So that's my answer.
Thanks, Volkmar. That'll be the last word today. Folks, how was the discussion? Please complete the show survey that's on your screen and let us know. The post show notes with today's contact information, with Volkmar's contact info, and expert resources will hit your mailbox soon. Next up, building competitive digital products for everyone. Roshni Joshi, Managing Director and AI Thought Leader for Google Cloud, shares her insights on building inclusive practices into digital product development and the key factors for success. So register for this show and others. Check out our library on our website, fte.network, and never miss a show. With over 2,900 members, 20,000 followers across more than 45 industries, our cross-industry professional network is growing fast thanks to supporters like you. Quick question: would faster access with complete contact lists, show data, and personal introductions be valuable to your business? If yes, please try a membership. If you don't find what you're looking for, we'll customize a plan for you. Then you can cancel anytime hassle-free. Learn more in the post show notes and our website. Folks, we're out of time. Thanks once again, Volkmar, and to all of you from the experts. We'll see you next time.